Welcome, my Wander and Wonder listeners. We have a very special interview today. Today we are speaking with Melissa Van Soelen. Not only is she the manager of the Interlake Tourism Association, but she is a seasoned solo traveler. As someone who has never experienced a solo traveling adventure and is quite fearful of the experience, I really gained a lot from speaking with Melissa. Our conversation is filled with practical tips, as well as how the experience of solo traveling is transformative. Sit back, take a listen, and get ready to be inspired. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wander and Wonder, Manitoba's Interlake. I'm your host, Laura Olofsson, and today we have a very special guest with us. We're going to be talking with Melissa Van Soelen, who is the manager of the Interlake Tourism Association. In addition to her work at the ITA, Melissa is also an adventure seeker. She has taken multiple solo trips around the Interlake and is here today to help me and help us prepare for our solo travel experience. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm quite well.
Thanks for being with us today. I just wondered if you wanted to just say a little bit about your work at the ITA and just tell the folks listening at home what you're all about.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm the manager of the Interlake Tourism Association, and I'm in this role for just over a year now. And prior to that, I was doing a lot of social media and video and photo work for the ITA, and then I moved into this position. So it was a good transition, considering I felt like I'd been to almost everywhere in the Interlake by the time I started to be the manager. So that was a great opportunity for me, and I'm happy to be in this role. In terms of my personal self, I'm 5'7", and I have brown, long, wavy hair that is always out of control. And I have brown eyes. And yeah, I'm built for the trails, let's say that.
That's amazing. I have long red hair that's always out of control, so I feel your pain. But also pleasure some days.
The buns.
Yep.
Have buns.
Buns, yeah. Essential when traveling as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know you've taken a lot of solo trips, obviously, with your work at the Interlake Tourism Association, but also just in your life. And so what do you think makes solo travel so special or different from traveling with other people or with a group?
For me, a lot of the travel that I've done solo, I did because I wanted to feel stronger in my everyday life. So I felt like if I could go out and do these excursions by myself and master them and accomplish what I had set out to do, then I would feel more confident in my everyday life. So that's been, really helpful for me. Another thing is you are bound to come across the people on the trails or in the water or wherever you are, and they're just like-minded like you. So they're just there to appreciate the nature and get out and enjoy the fresh air. And yeah, it's a great time to meet people. Rarely do you not see people smiling when they're out on the trails. What I like most about solo travel is that as a Manitoban, and we all know that we are, a bit frugal. So it's a low budget situation that we got going on there. Like you basically pay for your gas and then you're out there exploring the Interlake. So, and that's the thing. You get to choose your own path. So when you're not with other people, you just go at your own pace. If you decide to change your path, then that's no big deal,
Absolutely. You don't have to worry about anyone else's schedule. You're just, it's just you. You don't have to, stop at the washroom for this person or stop here for that person that must be so freeing.
Yeah. And it's a great way to learn more about yourself. So when you're left to your own devices out of the ordinary situations, like the forces you have to overcome, like your fears, and it just makes you feel more capable. So in turn, it makes you a better problem solver and decision maker, and teaches you to think on your feet. So, which can boost self-esteem, which is really, it's awesome.
Yeah, need a little bit of that after this past 2 years, feeling more capable and more self-esteem and more stronger within who we are,
Yeah,
ready to take an adventure like that. That's incredible. Now, if you were on your own and wanting to take a day trip, what would you recommend to someone who is looking to take a solo trip?
Usually the first thing I grab is my camera, but your phone works too. I always bring just lessons learned over and over again. I always bring rubber boots, just because you get to somewhere and you're like, oh, this is a big pile of mud. Awesome. So even if it's like, at one point I was at Lake Manitoba, and I wanted to get to this piece of beach that was just like by itself in the water. But in order for me to get there, it was like this huge swampy shenanigans, which was really fun. But also, I didn't want to get like my feet covered in whatever was down there. So I put on my rubber boots and I just like trucked out there. So essential. And I always have bug spray, because the bugs, as we know, in Manitoba are quite bad. I mean, sometimes I wear a mosquito hat, depending how far I'm going and whereabouts it is. You can get them from the dollar store. I always bring extra layers, because you can always take layers off. If you don't have layers to put on, that can be a problem. And then, speaking of the wet feet situation, always bring a change of socks and water and sunblock and a flashlight and snacks. And I always keep a towel in my car, because, sometimes
it's essential.
I just want to go swimming sometimes. And then I'm like, oh.
So that sounds like a fantastic list of things to bring. That's wonderful. Our listeners will certainly appreciate that, as well as I, because I would never think to bring a mosquito hat. That makes so much sense. We got swarmed last summer. So
yeah, because how many times have you been on a trail and then, it just is ruined because and then they like fly right into your ears. You're like, what is happening? And it just takes away from the whole experience. And by the time you're like, man, I'm so glad I'm back in my car, like it takes away from your experience. So the hats are just like so great. You're just like, whatever, I'm a superhero.
Yeah, it can sour your time for sure. And you wouldn't want that.
No.
So that's sort of some great things to bring. I guess we would also bring those things on a week-long trip with us as well. But is there anything you could add to, what the difference you feel like is between a day trip and a week-long trip? And then, have you ever done a week-long trip solo? What was that like?
I have done about 4 days. Okay. So this was a really interesting story. So I was really interested in Integrity Foods Pizza. And so I contacted Dora and Cornelius, and I asked, is it okay if I come up and just spend a weekend with you all and just hang out and whatever? And like, because they are volunteer based, I said, I'd be happy to volunteer and work on the pizza nights and hand out pizza and whatnot. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. So I went up there, and this was before I even was a part of the Interlake Tourism Association. I didn't know them. I cold called them from an email, and they responded. So I was like, wow, what a nice group of people. So I drove my car up, and I just parked in the back, and they let me camp in my car in their backyard, which was awesome. And so I had my sleeping bag and just all the camping essentials. I even brought like my little mini stove so I could have coffee early in the morning, because I like to get up and take a video of the rising sun and whatnot. I didn't want to wake them up for coffee. Gotta have that coffee. So so then they invited me in for all their meals, and I got to like follow Cornelius around as he like fed the pigs, and he fed all the animals, and he showed me how their grain works and how they make their grain. And it was just such a cool experience. And I just took a chance and asked, you know, that's all you got to do to see if somebody would be open to having you there. Yeah. And then during the pizza day or the pizza night, it was so much fun because I got to like hear all the people enjoying their pizza and meet all these different people and see how they operated in the kitchen. And it was just such a cool experience. Like, yeah. And it was just a self-made experience, you know, just me going and hanging out. And the best part is that they let me climb up on I'm terrified of heights, FYI. They let me climb all the way up on their silo. And I sat up there and I got a sunrise and a sunset. And I just sat there and it was just so cool seeing like the fog go across the fields and listening to like the pigs wake up and the cows wake up. And then there was like all these other sounds that I was just like, I don't even know what kind of animal that is, but I'm glad I am up here.
You overcame a fear too, you know? So that's
yeah.
to do on a solo trip. That's so Interlake, you know, that sounds so generous of those people.
Yeah. It was wonderful. They're wonderful people.
Yeah, make those cold calls, folks.
Yeah, just reach out. You never know what you're going to find.
Yeah, so neat, so neat. I guess with that, have you ever been concerned for your safety as a solo traveler? And I guess particularly as a female identifying solo traveler? And how do you deal with that? Is there any sort of tips you have on that or comments or thoughts about that? Yeah,
I suppose it all depends on your own comfort level in the wilderness, I would say. What I like about the Interlake is that there's tons of, and I plan to actually write an article about this because I don't think a lot of people know that there's a ton of little campgrounds all over that are just like self-registry check-in for like $15 a night. And the best thing about them is that they're so close to these little towns that you don't really feel that you feel safe still because you're still close to something, but you still get to like camp in your own camp and whatever. And so part of me is I've done the tent camping, which I do enjoy, but my own personal comfort level is I like to drive my car there and then I sleep in my car. Yeah. Because more so I'm scared of bears than I am of like anything else. I just don't really want a bear to come into my tent, which I don't think happens very often. But
if you were afraid of a bear, you could always purchase like a bear bell or some kind of, you know, something loud that would. Yeah. If you heard something at night, you could wake up and kind of make some noise. But I love that you mentioned that because, you know, there's so many people, especially after COVID, that were trying to get camping spots because they wanted to be in the outdoors and they wanted to, you know, they wanted to get out there, and they spent hours and hours and hours on the phone waiting for spots. And so that is incredible to know. Like you can just like Norris Lake is one, McEwen Park in Ericsdale. So and I just on Friday night I was driving back from the Narrows and I stopped at McEwen Park. And there was one camper there, and there's 15 campsites. One camper. I was like, people do not know about these little campsites, and they're so pretty. Like it was perfect. It was the perfect city. It was full of trees, and they had like the fire ban's on right now, but like you always have to check for that before you go. But you could easily just hang out and camp by yourself overnight. Amazing. And there was like a picnic area, and then there was a gas station like right down the street, but it was far away enough where you still felt like you were in the wilderness, which is awesome. Yeah, nice and quiet, and you know, some beautiful time to reflect, and you felt super safe as well.
Yeah. Plus there's like the thing about camping in these little small towns is that like I always try to encourage people, like take a look around, like do a little bit of research before you go, because there's always these like little things around there that you might not know exist. Like, for example, in Ericsdale, if you go basically across the street from where that campsite is, there's Percy Mogie's cabin. So you can take a part of your trip, just take a hike over there, go down the little trail, and you can see Percy Mogie's cabin. He was the only person to ever Escape Stony Mountain Penitentiary. And it's like a heritage site. It's so cool. Like there's a big sign, you can see it. And then there's like the murals in Ericsdale. Like there's so much to do in one little spot that you just may never know unless you do a little bit of research.
I almost started to cry there because my father's family is from that area, and they were up at a high school reunion there. And we found a beautiful dog right on the trail of Percy Mogie's cabin. My sister did, actually. She was a little girl at the time, and it was a dog that had been rejected by its mother and 2 broken legs. And she found this beautiful Blue heeler and said to my parents, please take this puppy home. And Blue ended up being like our cherished family pet. And we found her at Percy Mogie's cabin. So I just had like a moment there when you said that.
Oh, that's so nice. She must have been trying to escape too.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great. You've gotten some good hands there.
So I guess when you download the Driftscape app, the Interlake Tourism Association will also share this kind of info on the app, particularly when it comes to little spots all over the Interlake where there's cool stories like that, like Percy Mogie,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I always have my Driftscape app open when I go, and before I leave my house on my Wi-Fi network, I'll download my points that I'm hitting, and then it's offline. I can save it for offline, and then I can just go on my way, and I don't have to worry about maps. I don't have to worry about losing my map on Google Map or anything like that. Like, it's there. I also always bring my back roads map. That's always really nice to have because it shows you everything, and it even shows you like all the backcountry sites all over Manitoba. So that's really great.
Oh, that's a great tip. Thank you. Speaking of pets, can people bring their pets? Like, is that safe? Have you brought your little furry friend along with you on any of your solo trips?
Oh yeah, I frequently bring my little dog Frankie with me. She's a great companion just because she likes to be out and about. And I always try to find those spots where I know it won't be very populated, so I can just let her off our leash and run if it's okay with the trail. It just makes you feel like you're sharing the experience with somebody, and plus your dog just loves you more for it.
Does Frankie sleep in the car with you?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome. So that's another thing. Like, if you have your little dog, you can always be alerted of things that might be around you, even Perfect. If it's a squirrel.
Would you mind giving us a few gems of locations that you feel would be perfect for an Interlake solo trip?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would recommend, I really like Highway 6. I like going up Highway 6. There's a lot to see just right off the highway, which is amazing. And if you're going to Steep Rock, you'll end up in Steep Rock from there. You just turn off of Highway 6. But yeah, you can hit up all those campsites. You can hit up Lundar and get a selfie with the Lundar goose. My favorite stop is the LeMay statues. They're a concrete art gallery, basically. It was this fella, Armand LeMay, and he, at 72, sculpted these 21 huge sculptures, and they're just sitting in this field that they eventually took down all the grass and whatnot so visitors can go view them. But it's a really incredible spot to just be. And yeah, you could spend a couple hours there just kind of perusing and hanging out. It's such a beautiful area too.
That's great.
Yeah. And another one for if you want to get closer to the city and just want to go for a day trip, Lockport is such a great spot. There's so many trails to just go along, and you can read all the interpretive signage along the way and learn about the area. Plus the pelicans are awesome. And actually the last time I was there, which was just last week, I was just walking across the bridge because you can walk. There's a sidewalk, but be very, very careful because there's no railing. If you're on the west side, you can park just down under the bridge. There's a little mural under the bridge too that you should check out. It's very nice. And actually I was there, and it was just at the time where the dam was opening and letting a boat in. So I got to watch them lift the boat up and put it to the other side going south on the river. It was really cool.
Oh, that is so cool. And I guess if you're a fisher person.
Yeah, tons of fishing.
Yeah, so awesome.
Yeah. Plus, then, you're just have access to the greatest food ever at like Half Moon Drive-In or the Skinner's on 44 or on the Red River Road. Yeah, Red River Road.
I love Gaffers too. I love that patio, the rooftop.
Yeah, Gaffers patio is awesome.
Is there anything else you wanted to share with our audience before we say goodbye?
Yes, I actually do. So just in terms of safety, so really important on your solo trips, no matter where you're going or who you're going with, safety is always first. So ensure that you always visit manitoba.ca and go to the park section and visit and find wherever you're traveling, because it will give you updated information on travel restrictions, your fire bans, and all the trail closures. So yeah, always make sure that where you're going is accessible before you head out, because you just don't want to be disappointed, and make sure you always tell somebody where you're going, especially if you're alone, and approximately what time you're traveling, how long you're traveling, and even share your itinerary with them, because I don't know if you ever saw 121 Hours, but that is terrifying. Anyway, another one is like, just respect the wildlife. So don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. Don't try and get a selfie with a bear. Just don't do it.
And leave no trace,
Leave no trace. Take only photographs, leave only footprints.
Beautiful.
Always have an emergency roadside kit and first aid kit in your car. It's just helpful. You never know. And have a spare tire, your lug wrench, and a jack, or a CAA membership. Because the Interlake is not always has the greatest roads. Actually, let's just say that Manitoba doesn't always have the greatest roads. And then with that, I'll just leave you on one final thought. The advantages of solo travel are they're just not confined to when you're traveling. Like they persist long after, and after you've returned home, it can be quite transformational. So all I got to say is just go on and take the plunge. What do you really have to lose?
Thank you. I've never been on a solo trip, and now after speaking with you, I'm so excited to try it out. And thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Wonderful. Thank you all for listening. We've got more interviews to come with great folks from the Interlake. Keep listening to Wander and Wonder. Keep wandering, keep wondering, stay safe, and goodbye.